Okay, beautiful. Welcome everybody on this here in New Jersey snowy afternoon, the 12th of March, 2022. Last night, first I want to say we had a Friday night live. Of course, I said Saturday night live because I'm an idiot. But anyway, I said that, but that's what we meant. If you get a chance, you can go to almost any YouTube channel and watch the replay. I want to tell you, it was very, very good. Ash was relaxed and got to do what he does best, and the tech guys knocked it out of the park. And Ash filled in exactly what they started, so it was actually perfect. I want to get across to everybody watching us now, tomorrow, and weeks from now, months from now, because it doesn't go away, is that the whole reason we're doing this is to get people, look, you don't have to know what these gentlemen are saying. The main part of this is educational and entertaining in a way. Here's why. A lot of people, if they don't see something, their automatic opinion is nothing's happening. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Let me explain. The longer you don't see Ash, the better it is for us. If you see him every day, he's not doing what we need him to do. And trust me, there's no one else that we know that can do what he's doing. In fact, there's no one that would even attempt to do what he's doing. I have been doing this 18 years. Nobody in their right mind would do it. Thank God he doesn't have a right mind. He's got a crazy, unbelievable mind, but it's all for the good of mankind, for sure. Anyway, I wanted to break that across. So all of you that watch the technical stuff, you hear firewall, you hear database, data center, servers, and all this, and you think, oh my God, I don't know how to do that. Thank God, you don't have to know how to do it. What you have to do is sit back, grab some popcorn, educate yourself, because an education from 4 guys that are here today, if you did it any other time, you'd have to pay. They went to school what they're about to teach you today and for the weeks to come. Anyway, that's all I really had to say. I just want to ease everybody that this is for, learning purposes. If it makes you scared, don't be, because you don't have to know anything about it. But if you're like me, you want to know what's going on with the gears and stuff on the inside of the engine. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you very much, Marty DeGarmo, for those words. Very helpful. Welcome everyone to the OTech Pro webinar. It is a weekly webinar where technology information is made clear and simple. I am your host, Lynn Nakamoto. Today's topic is Behind the Curtain of ONPASSIVE, Security and Marketing. And we will begin with our 4 IT professionals who collectively have decades of experience in IT. So we will begin with Bob Takusi.
All right. Hello there, everybody. Hello to my fellow brothers in the industry. Good to see you, Uncle Mike. I'll call you Uncle Mike, Uncle Madi, and Lynn. It's always a pleasure being with you all. So today we're going to talk about IT security from our own side, and then Uncle Mike and Uncle Madi, they're going to, feed it in with from the marketing perspective. But before I proceed, I just want to make a few observations. In the past few weeks, we've seen our CEO come out, Mr. Ash Mufareh, very relaxed. He's been talking to us a lot, giving us a lot of information. He speaks with exuberance. You can tell that he's got it, You can tell from the feeling that he's got it, he got it, So, and I believe that in the next few weeks, months maybe, things are going to be unraveling. ONPASSIVE is going to begin its journey to the world at large. And as we anticipate that, we become popular, the rumble that we hear, that we used to hear from far away, is coming closer. And as that happens, we all, collectively, all of us are vulnerable. We become targets. ONPASSIVE becomes target. Because when ONPASSIVE comes and launches to the entire world, we are going to dominate every aspect of life in the IT industry and pretty much all aspects of life based on what we know so far. So that puts us at the crosshairs for bad guys, even friends and foes. Those are our competitors and our foes. They are going to want to come after us. So security is the key. All of us, all the founders too, because we will have access to ONPASSIVE. Remember, there's going to be an area where for the founders where we go into ONPASSIVE. So we are going to be targets of bad guys. So we must also practice security. We must also know how to spot things that are not normal. I'm sure with time, we're going to have some training that we're going to roll out to our founders. So I just wanted to bring that out there. Tonight, we're going to expand a little bit more on IT security, how we see it. Yesterday, we had a beautiful webinar, like Marty said, with our CEO, and he came and he affirmed everything that we've been thinking about, looking at it from the outside. He came and he affirmed with us, and he even gave us more. So actually, ONPASSIVE is even better than we thought, you know. So I'm going to proceed. I'm going to share my screen. Not anything complex for all of us. It's just basic steps, what we're going to be discussing about. So we're going to go through it together. I'm going to explain the process with you all. So bear with me. I'll share my screen now. All right. Check this out. So every company, doesn't matter how big or small you are, every company globally, large or small, their primary objective is to protect their data. Mr. Digamo said that a couple of weeks ago in clear terms, that data is your mola, your data is your money. Your data, your secrets, your designs, your code, everything about your company, your proprietary restricted information, that is your money, that is who you are. So we must protect it. That is the primary objective of every company that's out there, to protect your data, your sensitive information, your trade secrets. So, and to do that, we have what we call the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and unavailability. We must make sure our system and the data within is confidential. Only those who have the right to access that information, only those who have that right to access that information can access it. If you don't have the right to access that information, you should not, you cannot. The integrity of the data. Once the data is inside and it has been kept within our systems, it cannot be altered. It must be protected. Only those who have the privilege to access such data can access it. If you don't have the right to access that data, you should not be able to get to it. So the integrity of the data is maintained at all times. It is locked and kept secret. Then, availability. When we talk about availability, we mean that the system should be available to those that need to have the access to the system at all times. At all times. There should be no downtime. When you need access to your system, to this system should be available to you. So there it is. The primary objective for any company, security-wise, is to make sure the system is confidential. Keep your secrets. The integrity, you cannot change, you cannot alter information if you don't have the right permission to do so. And it should be available at all times for those who need the access to that system. So let me do a slideshow. So now, how do we protect these systems? What do we need to do? And how has ONPASSIVE protected these systems? Our CEO confirmed exactly what we were talking about yesterday. How have they protected their system? You protect your systems by applying security controls all over organizational wide. You have to make sure there are controls, there are checks, there are things that have been put in place to restrict or to protect that system. Okay? And when you protect that system, you have to always make sure that the protection that you put in place are working as they're supposed to. So we do what we call, you conduct security control assessment on a periodic basis. Periodically, you go and you check to make sure this security control that we put in place is operating as intended and it is producing the results that are expected. Then you are also proactive. You conduct vulnerability management assessment, scans. Most companies, they do it maybe weekly. You scan your system organizational wide. That's what we're doing. That's what the guys in Hyderabad are doing right now. You do weekly organizational wide scanning, vulnerability scan. You scan, you find weaknesses. Vulnerability is a weakness in the system that could be exploited by a bad guy. So they do scanning every week. You find flaws, you fix them, you patch them right away. Okay? And then you do penetration testing. There's something called penetration testing. This is where we have a special team in there. Our CEO told us a month ago or two that we have a special unit of guys who are actually testing the system to try to hack it. You know, you test the system, you jam it, you send all kinds of DOS, denial of service requests, or everything that you think could break the system, so that we find it and we fix it before the bad guys find it. In most companies, they have a team within, and they also hire outside third party that comes in once a year and conduct that penetration test and give a report. Then we have an incident response team. This is a team of specialists in all the areas, in all the security domains of the company. You have the top database administrators, the top network engineers, the top system administrator, everybody in all areas. They form that incident response team, and there's somebody who is leading them, and they have a plan that they are ready to go. In case there's any incident, any event, anything that requires them to act, the team is ready to respond instantly. So let's talk about the security controls as we see it. Remember, when we look at security in a company, we look at it from an application perspective, an organizational perspective, as well as infrastructure-wise. So look at the application, where the application sits. We do security control checks based on the application. We also look at the infrastructure where the application sits, the system sits, as well as organizationally, how the company manages its security controls organizationally. So I will start with the gateway, the entry to every company. Before you get into any company, you have to go through a human resource security process. Our founder told us a few weeks ago, and he confirmed yesterday, we have a thorough background check process in place. I mean, he said there are multiple background check, multiple layers of background check that is done. If you do not pass a background check, you cannot find employment at ONPASSIVE. That's a fact. He said that, and we, several times, and he repeated that again yesterday. So there's a background check process in place where you run a criminal background check, your professional background check. You cannot come and lie, fake your resume, fake credentials, fake degrees and all that. No, there's a company that is specialized in checking, validating, authenticating that what you have put in place is true. They also run through a criminal background check. You have a criminal background check, you will not be hired. I don't care how good you are. Mufareh will not let you in. He's a very highly ethical guy. Another control that we have in this area is confidentiality agreement, non-disclosure agreements. We know that these people, they come into the company, they have access to all our company secrets and information. So they are bound by non-disclosure agreements. All of us, even us, the founders, when we come in, we sign that NDA that you sign. That's a confidentiality agreement that you have to respect the secrets of the company. What you know, you cannot go outside and talk and say it or share it anyhow. The company is going to reserve the right to come after you legally if you break that trust. So they have that NDA process in place. And then training and awareness is one key security control in most companies. Most companies make sure they have a training department for their employees. Not only training in terms of the processes, their job functions, but also security awareness training. And I'm glad our CEO last week told us that we have a training department at ONPASSIVE, where they are actually training people and making sure everything is intact, security control wise, everything is intact. Even the developers are having training on secure code. So everybody gets that training, and in most cases, they would sign that they have actually gotten the training. So those are the three main areas that we want to focus in when we talk of human resource security: background checks, confidentiality agreements, and training of the employees, making sure you are aware of, everything that's going on, especially some of the attack vectors that are out there. There are ways that, people try to attack our systems. When you do that training, awareness and training program, they teach you the various ways through malware, phishing, where the people send you fake emails and try to trick you to supply your email address and your credentials, and then they'll grab it. They can actually use it and then send malicious code. There's something called secret injection. They can take it and then send malicious code to our system. So when you go through this training process, you learn all that, okay? Then we have physical security as well. Remember, we are starting from an organizational perspective. So you come into the organization, you go through human resource security, and then physical security. When you get into the physical premises, there's also physical security controls in place. Remember, when we were at Bangalore, we were only renting two-story building, a two-story floor. People could just come in, get in, go upstairs, go to the building as you want. Mr. Mufareh moved the entire operation to Hyderabad because he wanted a building where they have appropriate physical security control in place. And we have that. We had Mr. Gusminda yesterday. He told us he went to that building, he went and visited the building. There are actual security guards there, physical security guards there. There's a front desk. You cannot just walk into the building. You have to walk in. You sign, they have visitor access badges, they have door locks. You cannot just go through, through to the server rooms and all that stuff. No, the data center in there, there's a small data center in there. You can't just get there at will. No, you have to have a pass, an escort even. And we have closed circuit TVs as well that monitor access. And their access is revoked upon leaving. As soon as you leave in the company, the access is revoked instantly, and there's a periodic review. They have periodic review to make sure that there's no one here that have access, that is accessing the system or the buildings when they are not supposed to. So they review periodically, and then they will remove all those that don't warrant access. I missed there's another control which I did not put here, the access control. I left it out because I know my brother Vincent is going to talk more on the access control, the database side, but we have access controls as well. How you are authenticated in the system. There's a process, they have a process in place where you request access, it is provisioned appropriately. Our founder told us about Active Directory, which Vincent is going to talk about more, how they give you access through Active Directory. You have your rights and privileges to the tools or the systems that you, by your rights and your employment, what you are supposed to see and not see. So all that is provisioned through access control. We have multi-factor authentication, passwords. You see that all of us, even in O-Founders, we have password policy, password security in place. You have to have a certain number of characters, uppercase, special characters, at least eight characters in length, you know, and then you have that OTP, that one-time password code, which goes to your email. That is multi-factor authentication. That is how the system is being, that's how controls are being placed to restrict and manage our access that we have. So, but Vincent is going to talk more about access control, especially when it comes to our database side. And then we have our, ONPASSIVE is a software as a solution, right? It's a software, it's a software as a service solution. So it's a program, it's a software. So we have a defined, we must have a defined system development lifecycle or a secure system development lifecycle. And we know that we have one because our founder has told us that we are using what they call the Agile Scrum methodology, where all the teams are working together, they are developing their code together, they are testing it together, they are, you know, managing it together, they're producing functionality in each sprint, they're working on in sprints. So they produce everything, they come together, they look at it, they review, they test, they go to the next sprint. He told us that. We have development environment, we have QA environment, you have production environments, they are all separated and they are updated, they are patched. Make sure they are all synchronized, all the same, and they are patched accordingly. And then, of course, we have developer training, where the developers are trained on secure coding techniques. There's something called OWASP Top 10, where the top 10 vulnerabilities that hit code, these people, they are trained on those vulnerabilities so that they write their code such that those vulnerabilities cannot be used through to attack the system. My brother, Collins is going to talk more about the system development lifecycle. He's a specialist in that. So I just wanted to bring that in here to let us know. So let me now go to the main meat of this presentation. So when we talk of security, we are looking at it, as I say, from an application perspective, an infrastructure perspective, and an organizational perspective. So here we look from the network side. Once you come into the network, you go to onpassive.com, you're entering into the ONPASSIVE network. We have firewalls in place. Yesterday, our CEO affirmed what we were saying. He said that we have multiple firewalls, actually. You know, that is something that prevents bad guys. It's like a firewall. In simple terms, it's like, let's say you have a nice building and then you have a nice fence around and a gate. And on the gate, you are only letting the good guys, you're inspecting the people that are coming in. You want only the bad guys, those who need to come to that system. That's you are examining them as they're coming in. So the firewall keeps the bad guys out of, you know, your network. Logging and monitoring of the system. We have monitoring tools. Our founder told us yesterday we have state-of-the-art monitoring tools that are in place. Logging in, we logging every activity that's happening in the system. We're logging those activities. We have different kinds of logs, database logs, application logs, server logs, you know, even the antivirus IDS, all those logs are in place. We have intrusion detection systems that detect if there's anything abnormal in the system, both at the endpoint level and the system level. It will detect and it will create an alert for, you know, for the incident response team to come out and check what is going on. We're looking at the security configuration of the system, how the system is configured, make sure they are using the up-to-date configurations in our system, in our network, our databases, our routers, our switches are all configured properly, you know, making sure that default passwords are changed upon login. When you come into the system, you use a password, you change the password, unnecessary services are disabled, all those things you configure your systems based on the latest standard. The servers are hardened. Servers do what we call server hardening. Make sure the servers are tuned to the optimum performance. And then we have encryption. Again, our database administrator here, Mr. Vincent, is going to talk more on encryption, but encryption is how you protect the data that is in the system. Encryption in transit, when data is coming into our network or is leaving our network, it is encrypted. We use what we call TLS, and I think the version is, the most up-to-date version is TLS 1.3. And then I believe that they are also hashed. You know, you encrypt it and you hash. There's something called file hashing, which also locks the file and protects the integrity of the file. And then it goes into, when it comes into our system, it goes into the database, and then it stays there encrypted. As a matter of fact, our CEO told us something yesterday which astonished, which surprised me. Most companies, they don't encrypt the entire database because it's a very expensive gesture thing to do. I'm sure our DBA is going to tell us that too. Most companies just encrypt maybe columns, they encrypt like where you have restricted information like social security numbers or your credit card numbers on the database table. They will encrypt like that. They will not encrypt the entire table. It is very expensive to do, but Mr. Mufareh is encrypting everything in our system, which is very, very, very good for us to protect our data. We have antivirus and malware. Antivirus and malware, they're all over in the system, both at the server and at our endpoints, at our workstations. They are also there. Antivirus and malware. Data loss prevention. Data loss prevention is an agent that is installed also in the system that prevents us, especially now that a lot of companies are having a lot of problems with insider threats. People within the company, they're stealing proprietary information, they're uploading it into the cloud, or you can forward it to your email, company data. With this agent, DLP agent, data loss prevention, you can't do that. When you try to upload any company proprietary information, say to your Google Cloud or send it via email, it alerts your manager, it stops it, and then alerts your manager, and then you will get a call from your manager. So have a DLP agent. As a matter of fact, this is a big deal, a big problem for most companies. An insider threat is one of the most difficult problems a company can have. As a matter of fact, right now in my company, the company I work for, last week, our CIO announced that there's going to be a corporate-wide data loss prevention program where they're going to do what we call a data classification to classify our data to know which are the most sensitive data to have that protection, that DLP protection, and there will be seen and unseen protocols in place. So there are protocols that like this one that when you try to upload, the system will block it. And there are protocols that you don't know where they'll pick you up. So most companies are facing a lot of problems with insider threats, and this helps you to prevent that. We also have USB block. You can block your USB. So you cannot go and just put your USB drive in there and then download files. No, it is blocked. And then we have email filtering systems where they filter the email to make sure you are not sending files back and forth, proprietary information back and forth that you're not supposed to. Your wireless network. Most companies now have wireless network, right? So we want to make sure that wireless network is encrypted. And you are scanning the network. We are scanning the network, constantly scanning the network, because some bad guys can come and they have something what they call a sniffer. They can come and stay outside your network, and they are sniffing your network. If there's any open port, they'll get into your network. So you want to scan, you want to encrypt the network, the wireless network, and you're also scanning constantly, making sure there are no bad guys hanging around that area where your wireless network is. And then, of course, we are performing vulnerability scans and penetration testing. So these are the core areas where within your network, you want to make sure all these controls are in place and they are tested frequently. They are tested through security control assessment to make sure we have them in place. And I think we do, based on what our CEO told us yesterday, all this, you will receive a check mark from me. And then we have what we call the incident response team. We have to make sure that there's an incident response team in place. As I said earlier, a team of high professionals, the top of every team. They form this incident response team, and they are usually in a place where they call a security operations center, the SOC room. They're in there with large monitors, all those logs, they can see the logs, you can see activity logs, you see the graph as it's going, as traffic is going across the network. They are seeing if there's any abnormality, there's an alert that will go to them, to this team, and they'll spring into action. When anything happens to the company within seconds, they know. So they go into action and they will either isolate that entire part of the network and they take care of the problem. If it's a problem, bring it down, and they will do things that the company and organizational wide people will not know that was a problem in the system because they are right on top of it. Very, very high talented team. Then we have what we call our business continuity and disaster recovery program. Every company and us, we should have a business, this program in place. There's a plan in place. In that plan, we have what we call the business continuity plan, the BCP, where you have outlined your strategy in there, everything step by step. In case something happens and the system goes down, how do you do? What is our backup and recovery strategy? What do we have? Where are our sites? Do we have hot sites, or what kind of database do we have? Symmetrical replication, is the database, are they running instantly at the same time where one goes down and one comes up? Or where's our backup site? Do we have a hot site? All those kind of things are determined inside in this BCP, and they are acted upon when the case arises. We have business impact analysis. So you want to also make sure you conduct your business impact analysis to where you identify your critical IT resources and services. So you list them. Okay, when my system goes down, these are the critical IT services that cannot fail, or if they are failing, this is the amount of time that they have to be down. And the resources, the various specialists that are assigned to make sure that system is up. The maximum allowable downtime, how long can the system go down, is defined here inside a business impact analysis. How long? We have what they call recovery time objective and recovery point objective. Recovery time, RTO. How much time do we have for the system to be down before it starts impacting business, start impacting our bottom line? And recovery point objective. At what point do we roll back the system to go grab it so that we can bring it back online? So all that is covered inside your business continuity and disaster recovery plan. And then, of course, you have to test the plan. Plan testing. Every so often in my company, they do it every 6 months. They do a business continuity and disaster recovery test. Sometimes they shut down the entire system, do a whole test to make sure everything is covered. Cloud security, my brother Oliver is going to talk more about cloud security, but here you want to just make sure of your security configuration is intact in the cloud, because we're going to have a cloud system. We're in the cloud, a data center in cloud and everything. And then the segmentation, if we have multi-tenant environment, which I think we are going to have. So multiple tenants are going to be on our data center, right? How is this segmented and secured? So that is determined here inside our cloud security protocol. And then we have IT governance, the organizational wide in the company as well. Do you have an information security program? When I look at a company's security posture, I look at this. This is where I start, actually. I check if they have an information security program in place. Most companies do. And then they have a chief information security officer who is in charge of the program, right? And then they conduct risk assessment. Most companies don't have this, but risk assessment is a very key aspect to most large companies because they have what they call third-party vendors that come in. So you want to conduct an assessment of those third-party vendors that you share, where you share data with, and you have your APIs, your interfaces are connected, your systems connect. And then, of course, policy exception. If there are any exceptions, if for some reason you are dealing with a company that does not have the control that you need in place, do you have a policy exception process in place that is taken up all the way to the managers, and then they give a credible reason why you should do business with this company that does not have the control that you want. And then, of course, we have some regulations that we are also complying with. Our CEO talked about this made reference to some of this yesterday. As Mr. Mufareh is building this system, he's complying with regulations and compliance. In North America here, where we are, there are so many states. Every state have their own privacy laws. That if you have any system that is collecting personal data, you have to have those controls in place. In California, we have CCPA, California Consumer Protection Act. You have to have certain controls in place. In New York, we have New York State Part 500. That's the regulation. In Europe, my brothers Collins and they said they're in England. In England and the rest of Europe, they have what they call GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. In England, actually, personal data is very, 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 very important. Just your email address is considered personal data, or your picture, your Facebook picture. So, and if you don't comply, if you don't have these systems, these security controls in place, you are fined. GDPR, they will fine you at, I believe it's 4% of your annual gross revenue, or 20 billion pounds. It is a very, very, very big regulation in England, and they have about maybe like 10 controls where they say you have to have this, you have to have a data privacy officer, you have to do assessments. They have a list of controls, which I know our founder is complying with because we are all over Europe. We have something called LGDPD. It's in Brazil, Latin America, and Brazil. They have their own controls, their own security controls that is in place. In Australia, we have their privacy laws in Australia, in Canada, Africa, and all over the world. So that is why our lawyers are all over the world, making sure they have all this compliance, and we are looking at them as we are building the system. And that's why it's taking a little bit of time. And then we also have some audited controls. You know, some companies, they will hire a third-party auditor, IT auditor, like we have somebody like PricewaterhouseCoopers or KPMG. They have specialists. They will come in and they will X-ray our system. I'm sure our founder is probably looking at one of those folks to come, and they'll X-ray our system, and then they will give you an attestation that your system is safe. They'll give you what they call an SAE 18 report, or a SOC 2 type 2 report. We call it SOC 2 type 2 report, which shows everything that they have looked at, and they have confirmed that you have those controls are in place. And then there's something called PCI DSS compliant report. PCI is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. All major banks, they came together. Banks, because that collect credit card payments and information, they came together and they formed a council, and they created these controls. So for any system that is collecting people's payment through credit cards, you have to be compliant with this with PCI DSS. You have to be compliant. So they will send a qualified security assessor to come and look at their system. When your system passes, then they will give you what they call an attestation of compliance, AOC report. So I'm sure, because we are collecting that kind of information, we are going to surely have one of these. And then there's also something called an ISO 27001 certification, which, since we are multinational, we're all over the world, this certification, when we have these three particular ones, there are so many others out there, but when we have these three, I know that we are good, because that means we have all the security controls in place. Let me get out of this. This is because my screen is, yeah, okay. So I just put this file here. So when we look at, as a security analyst, this is not ONPASSIVE data. But when we look at the security posture of a company, these are the 9 domains that we look at. We go into detail. We run something to check, because we can see, even though they have their firewalls as blocking us, but they still have some external facing IPs that we can hit. When we look at it, we can tell from what we see from the outside that this company is secure or not. That's how these are the first steps that we take. So we look at these 9 domains. We look at their software patching, application security, your web encryption, your data network filtering, breach events. If there are any breaches, we'll just know right here, and then a red flag, your system reputation, email security, your DNS security, and your system hosting. So these are the 9 areas that we typically look at. And I can tell you that we are fine. Let me use the word of my brother Oliver, we are fine. And having said that, I'm just going to say thank you all. Thank you, my fellow OTech pros. I hope I didn't take too much time, but I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I will pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother Bob Takusi, and you did a wonderful job. You gave a total overview of everything. So I will not touch on that area anymore. I will just go to the cloud security and touch a little bit what the CEO told us, mentioned yesterday, like about our security, that he make us to understand that security is like number one. Like our big brother, Mr. Marty Digamo said, the data is what we are looking, we need to protect, because with the kind of business that we are in, our customers are supposed to be sure that where their data is going is secured. Let me go to the technological part, that where we are with it, and the kind of technology, the kind of equipment that we do have. Remember that in the cloud, our data are going to be stored in our cloud, in our ONPASSIVE cloud environment. One, our servers, I know, to have we have the AI servers. They will cost at least minimum $1.5 million for a piece. So you can imagine how much our CEO has spent. And those servers come with their own insecurity. And I can remember when we moved to to the old founders, he told us that we have a capacity of a billion. It can take a capacity of 1 billion users and can be scaled. They can scale them up. Scaling them up, it comes also with the security. Companies can come, we have something my brother Bob just mentioned in tenant, that can segment them, and when you come to buy a space or to come and be a customer for ONPASSIVE Cloud, the security that is there, that where your data is going to reside, we call it, where your data, a home, that way your data will reside, we'll call it, you secure, called encryption at rest. And when it's encryption at rest, it means that your data stays there. It's well secure, the highest maximum based on US federal government, that the AES is 256. The minimum that the US government recommend, that's what the whole world is taking, is AES 128. A lot of companies go with that, but some companies are also moving to that. And I know that is what our CEO has taken. Bob also mentioned about the encryption in transit. A lot of companies, now that we work from home, most of our customers, they'll be working from home, and there'll be a lot of movement of data. And the movement of data, it has to be secure from end to end. It has to be encrypted from end to end, because most companies, they don't, as I'm working from home, my company don't believe that my network in my house is secured. So they have to apply their own security. The VPN, we do have that. virtual, we have virtual. virtual is a tool that is going to sell. We are going to sell the hell out of virtual. That is VPN, the virtual private network. So companies will come and buy our virtual to secure the network that goes to their employees that work from home. And that transit, movement of transit is also there. Let me go to our email. Look at omail.ai that we have now. We are testing them. We are testing now we are using beta testing now. There's no spams. There's no spam. We don't have any spams there. That tells you that our system, the equipment that we use web application. Web application comes with its own security. Every equipment that we use today in ONPASSIVE. That is why the CEO, I can imagine he said it in the Indian webinar that our security is 100%. I, as a security person, I will not give that. But he assured us, and he came out again yesterday powerfully to talk about our security, how powerful our security is. He says something also that our database infrastructure, let me just touch on that also a little bit. What he said yesterday, that is the best and is the top of all the levels. Is the top of all the levels in our security. It will use SSL. SSL is the secure. How can I put it? Secure socket layer. Okay. That is another layer of security, that the system is secure, is tight, that nobody can penetrate in it. And the encryption then also that we have. Look at our cable, the fiber optic cable that goes into our servers. The brightness of it is the speed also. When you log in into OFounder, you look at the speed. Fiber optic is doing that. Look at the brightness. Fiber optic is doing that, and it comes with its own security. So you see that all the equipment that we use, all the tools and that we use, they are all secured. Again, 5G. We use 5G. 5G also, the speed and the security also, bam, is there. Let me go back to web application that we use. The speed also, and if you have 2G, it takes you up to 3G. Even if you're in the most remote area, it jack you up, and the security there also is tight. So everything that we are using, is secured. Let me also go to phishing. We have something that we call phishing, because the bad guys, we are all working, Mike Ellis, we are all working with Mike Ellis, the same department. Somebody from outside knows his work email address, like Oliver Fonte at ONPASSIVE.com or .ai. That person will send me an email in. So the point is, when you use your mouse, you go to that, they'll send a link. When you go to that, when you put your link, your mouse on that link, you will see the numbers. If they are not clear, not what you know, don't click. That is how they use to phish people. They will send you that email from outside. When you click on that email, they get your system ransom, start asking for money. So we should be very careful. And I know the training that the CEO said that they are training our guys in Hyderabad, they should be doing that training, and it falls under governance that my brother Bob just mentioned. Phishing, because they fish one person, and what they always fish, people in the account department, people in HR, because they have data for everybody. They have access to all employees, their data. And I know in Hyderabad, our CEO has put things in place that phishing, they will not be able to fish anybody. And you don't read, even myself now, when I see some certain emails, I don't read. I don't. If I don't know you, I don't read, I delete. Because they can fish you, and that phishing awareness training, it goes, most companies, they do it every 3 months. From the CEO comes down, everybody is composing and is mandatory. Everybody must take that training. There's also we call some other one we call forensic in security. Forensic, that people you have in-house that are also the most dangerous people in security that from in-house. Let's say they want to fire, or that you've tendered your resignation. You've given your 2 weeks or 1 month that you want to resign. You can cause damage. That is why we have something also that in-house. They give privileges only on what? Only on the task that you are doing. You can only edit, but you cannot delete. You can review. They give you privilege to edit and review, or you can only put in data, but you cannot edit. It's like you go to the bank today. When you go to the bank today, those tellers in the bank can only see your checking account or your savings account. They can't see anything anymore. So they've given them that permission to carry on only that task. They can't see anything. Their manager might have access to see everything, or also they might limit his task also, because the next person that you are working with, the privilege that he has, you don't have. What you have, he doesn't have. So that is the way. And I know that our CEO, like he also mentioned something about cross-training, that they have a department that a training department that they do train, that is cross-training. We call it SOP, standard operation process. For that they train, so that if you are not in, people take advantage, employees, they take advantage that they've worked in the company for 15, 20 years. Let's say somebody in Hyderabad said that, oh, I'm the core. If I leave, if I'm sick, nobody will do my job. These days, it doesn't work. I was very happy when the CEO mentioned that they are doing cross-training of employees, so that if you are not in, another person will just come that they've already trained to come and do that job. What they do is that they will train you, they will train other employees in that program with steps and diagrams. From step one, this is when you log in, what do you do? With diagrams, step two, what do you do? Same task. So that if you are on vacation, or in America, we take FMLA, that especially women do take FMLA, that they want to go put to bed for 6 months. You don't expect that for 6 months. If you are not there, your job, nobody is going to do it. So that is part of the security that we are talking about. Come now, we do have also in the cloud, we have to put a monitoring alert also in our cloud environment, because the bad guys can be anywhere and they take our system ransom. But the good news with ONPASSIVE is that we have the artificial intelligence cloud security. That continuous monitoring of our system that has that robust alert. If they see, and they can dictate a future attack in the system. By the time you even want to come, they've already alert everybody and they block the ports, so you can't come in. You cannot come in. Then now, let me go now to read an automated dictation also action. When we have our cloud also based on what the equipment that I know, I'm looking from outside. I was not in, though the CEO also mentioned a lot of stuff to us yesterday, and I was very happy that he said we have a data center SSSSS. That guarantee just melts me. That I know that our customers, I'm telling you, most of them will move. Most of them will move and come to ONPASSIVE, because the equipment that we do have, we cannot play with it. My brother Bob just mentioned also about the firewall that the CEO told us yesterday, that our firewalls are in multiple locations. So our defense alone, you cannot penetrate us. I don't want to take much time since we have limited time. I can talk and talk and talk. Let me give it to my brother Collins to take over. Thanks.
Thank you, Bro Oliver, and thank you, Bro Bob. You guys have just nailed it all. And truly, we don't really want to take too much time to keep people waiting, because this is just to give you an idea of what is happening behind. You know, as Madi said, the fact that we are not seeing anything doesn't mean things are not happening, because, you know, when you look at software development, you know, it's not only about developing functionalities. No, it is all about security. There's a lot of moving parts within software development. One of the topics we are saying today is security. You know, the assurance to assure you that the software ONPASSIVE is building is secure. That's the reason we're giving this training. But now I just want to look at two parts, because we've already talked about, Bro Oliver have just talked about security in another dimension. Bro Bob has talked about security in another dimension. I want to look at it from the point of quality assurance. You know, as a quality assurance, what we do is to verify and validate that what we are building is fit for purpose. We verify and validate not only the functionality, but security as well. So I want to look at web security, web application, because we are building web application. What is the assurance that if I copy your browser, your web address, and paste it somewhere, I cannot get into your the system after you have logged in? That is another security. You know, you try that, especially in a software that is well secured. For instance, go to the browser, copy it, right? After the person or the user have logged in, take a photo of it, open another browser, paste it there. You know what will happen? You will see the login screen. It will take you back to the login screen for you to log in again. And if the system have two-factor authentication, you have to provide all of that system again, just to tell you, you cannot log in using the web browser. So that is a security from web end to end. Let me look at the log table, because you've already talked about, Vincent will talk about SQL injection and password encryption end to end. But let me look at log table controls. So in every system you build, both front end and back end, there must be log table. The log table gathers every information. That's the security, because they can pinpoint from the time you log into the system, which area of the system you maneuver or you move until the time you log out. It records everything you click on, the time, the minute, the second. And that is why you cannot escape this. They can see you anywhere, whatever you are doing, go to the wallet, they can see you. So bad guys cannot get there. If they really think, they can get you straight away. That is the use, because there is no software on earth which they will build without giving a log table, an audit log table. It gathers all the record of everything you are doing within that system. So I will just leave it there, and I'll throw it back to Brother Vincent to talk more about SQL and everything, because Brother Oliver have just touched all the areas. And Bob, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Bob, and also Brother Oliver and Brother Collins for a good introduction of what you did. I think Brother Bob also went all aspects of security, even he did also about area of the database as well, because they all work together. Most of the security areas, they work together. So I will also concentrate in a few areas in our database area, like so the database security, like I said, is also involving protecting the database management system. So the database management system, there are many of them. With them like the well-known like Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL. Even yesterday, our CEO told about MongoDB. All this they are using on ONPASSIVE. So it's a big company. So the meaning is to from unauthorized users or malicious or cyber attack. So this is one touch of the security. And also the security, I'll talk about also the security, the strategy of the security. So the security strategy involve about tools, processes, and methodologies. So this is all we use it to secure and maintain the high inside the database environment and protect the database from the intrusion, malicious, or maybe and damage. So this is the strategy we use about it. And then before we inside also the database security, we talk also, we have the operating system. So the operating system is just like a personal computer operating system. The database must be updated on a continuous basis. So if the database not updated, it can also affect also the database security area of the database. So most vendors constantly, they release the patches, service pack, and then the security update. So you cannot talk about the database without database security without touching this area as well. So in terms of the operating system, I'll go about the identity and also the access of the database. So to get to the database, we need to go to the authentication. So authentication is providing the user who they claim to be. So that when you say, okay, I'm Collins, and then this is the part of the authentication. So that's where you claim to be. And then we have to authorize, so the authorization. So the authorization also refer to the controlling of the access on the resource. And then it give you the permission that, okay, now you are Collins, and then I know who you are now, and then I give you the permission. Now you can log into the database. So this is the two key points the database security also get in before you get into the system. And then once you are in the system, there are also a lot of technologies around the database system to make that the database become more secure. We're talking about the encryption system. So the encryption, there are so many type of the encryption goes around the database. So I know Brother Bob and Brother Oliver, they talk about that SSL and also TLS. So this is also part of the security. Also, this security also apply to the database or even the firewall, everything. So in terms of the encryption, we have the data at rest. So when there is a transparent data encryption, so when the data at rest, like this time of the day, we know that most of the corporate or businesses are closed. So someone can go and steal the information, like they steal all the database, you can copy the database. But with this encryption system, if I take it, I say, okay, I steal the information from corporate A, I want to go to anywhere to restore the database and then get all the sensitive information of let's say you steal from the bank. But in that case, because of the TDE, the encryption at rest, you cannot restore the database. So this is one security system to protect the database when the database is not used. Because if there's no TDE, the transparent encryption, you can take it and then restore anywhere else. Even you can restore in your personal computer and grab all the information, the personal information of people inside. So this is one way, good, important to encrypt your database. And then there's another one called always encrypted. Always encrypted is like encryption in use. And then always encrypted is good for our system called O-Wallet, because O-Wallet is going to have credit cards and also a lot of sensitive information. So because of that, we need to put that security in place. So the encryption you use, so the transfer from the client computer to the server, we need to, when we transfer the data, so putting this there, people cannot get the sensitive information. So this is called always encrypted. And then there's another encryption I'll talk about that. They call it dynamic data masking. So the dynamic data masking is also limit the exposure of the database, the information by non-privileged users. Like if I'm sending the credit card information to Brother Collins, I'm working on that as an administrator, I can see only the last 3 digits. So the rest, the beginning of the credit card numbers is cross. This is calling the dynamic data masking. So it masks the data that no one can get that sensitive information. So yesterday, our CEO told us that all this is implemented in ONPASSIVE. So this is a good thing where we talk about that, but even knowing that we have even the tight security in ONPASSIVE. So I'll talk also a bit about the application and server security. So any application or web server that interact with the database can also be a channel of attack. So this thing also should be subject to ongoing security testing and also the security-based management system. Because if we don't do that, anytime we log in, like people go to OFounder, we log in, some people can use this. This is what I was trying to say, application and web server security. People can use it to attack our system. So we have a system also in place for that. Our CEO told us yesterday. So we also, to end, we'll talk also about the database, the backup security, because the backup security, it works similarly like the data also when the data is there, because the backup, you can also put encryption on the data, the backup, because if the backup, most of the corporate, when the backup, we can live in the UK and then our backup could be in the United States. So, or maybe somewhere in Florida, and then the backup could be in maybe New York, and then the company could be in Florida. So if you don't encrypt your backup, because for any disaster issues happen, because you do it in case of disaster issues, but someone can be maybe New York and steal your data and go and take the sensitive information from your data. So it's also a good way to protect our backup system. So the last part also, I will talk about the security. I'll talk about the login system. So we have also a login when users, you log in, let's say when I log into the database, we have to also make audit system that any single user in the database, we can have a record that Brother Collins have logged in, Sister Lynn have logged in, Brother Marty have logged in. So we can see all the login, the successful login, and then the failed login. So we can use this for like a security control to make sure that we know exactly who is in the system, and then we try to get into the system. So it's good to perform this testing system, and also it's like performing the security and make sure that on sensitive data as well. So this is one part of the the security also, every single company, they must check also to protect the data or protect the sensitive information. So I will pass to Lynn, and then this is the hand of the security of the database. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mm.
So thanks to the four of you for a very concise overview of IT security. So at this time, we're going to give Marty DeGarmo and Mike Ellis the floor. They're going to be talking about marketing and why IT should be applicable to people like me, the ordinary person.
Marty, you want to go or you want me to go first?
You're the boss, Mike. Beauty before age.
All right, I'll go first. You guys have done a terrific job taking the very, very complicated and explaining it to us. And I think you've made it as simple as you can, because it's an extremely complicated subject when we start talking about security, but it's so important to everything that we do. And Lynn wants us to talk about marketing and security and kind of tie the two together. It's really not that hard to do. You guys have taken care of the technical part. When we start to talk about marketing, Ash yesterday, he talked about his journey. He talked about what it started out to be and what it is today. And it's why the security end of it has gotten so massive. I think initially when Ash started and he was going to do an automated marketing platform and drive traffic, I don't think it was this complicated. I think it was a lot simpler because the system he was putting together was a lot simpler. But because of what Ash has done, because of what his team in Hyderabad have done, because of what the founders have done, and what ONPASSIVE has become today, it's extremely complicated when you really get into the weeds. And thank you for not doing that today. I know each and every one of you could talk for another hour and it would be just way over my head. But when I start to think about marketing and the security end of ONPASSIVE, it's simple for me. ONPASSIVE is in a big bubble and no one can penetrate that bubble, but it's not one bubble. It's bubble within bubble within bubble within bubble. And the arbitrator of all of this security, all of those bubbles is ONPASSIVE. And they allow whoever they want in, and they allow whoever any information or data going out, they allow it out. And when you start to talk about the products of ONPASSIVE and how that works and how customers are going to come in and use the products of ONPASSIVE, and this is the real, for me, this is the point of the security and marketing. As customers come in and buy the products of ONPASSIVE, all the security is there. And ONPASSIVE is the arbitrator of what they get and what they don't get. And as they come in, this has to be seamless, absolutely seamless. And because of the security side of ONPASSIVE and what Ash has done with the products, customers can come in, get their information, whether it's OStaff, the HR platform that they use, they can get all their information. It comes down, it's encrypted going down, it's encrypted going up. They don't see any of this thing. All they see is the product that they want and how seamless it is for them and how easy it is for them to use the products and build their business, build their bottom line. It just makes their life easier. And the security side makes all of this possible so that they can be comfortable putting their information in there and the information going back from their business to the cloud and bringing it back and forth. If they're not comfortable with the security side, I can tell you flat out, the customers will not come in, period. Now for Ash Mufareh, this really was a catch-22. When Ash originally started building ONPASSIVE, and he started with the automated marketing platform, it was very, very simple. The security was not that detailed as these gentlemen have given us today. But the catch-22 is from the time of the inception of ONPASSIVE and ONPASSIVE today, we are a behemoth. And we know the bad guys, they go where the money is. That is ONPASSIVE. And it's all of us, every one of us all of the founders that are participating with ONPASSIVE, that's our money too. And the bad guys are going to come after it. So as you listen to Bob and Vincent and Colin and Oliver, and they give you the details of what Ash is doing. And by the way, Ash is doing even more than what they said. I don't even want to go there, guys. Please do not go there.
Yep.
He is doing more than what they said. What it does is it protects our future. More importantly, it protects the brand of ONPASSIVE. And if you don't have a great brand, a brand that is protected, customers will come in, they're going to know it. So the security side of ONPASSIVE is so important, not only for ONPASSIVE, but for the brand of ONPASSIVE. And just think of it as bubbles within bubbles, within bubbles, within bubbles, because that's what it is. There are so many areas of protection with ONPASSIVE, and Ash does that for the company. He does it for the founding members of ONPASSIVE. He does it for the products of ONPASSIVE. He does it for the customers of ONPASSIVE. And that last one is the most important because we are a customer-based business. If we can't protect the customer, we're out of business. And Ash Mufareh, as these gentlemen have just said, we're protecting the customer. And because of that, we all have a very, very bright future moving forward to actually start taking care of some of those needs that we all have. And I just think the future is so bright. The last thing I'll say, and for me, this is just remarkable, the time frame that Ash Mufareh has done this in, I can't wrap my brain around it. I listen to these four individuals. I understand the time it takes to do everything they're talking about. And Ash Mufareh has come in and done it in record time. Now, I know how he's done that. I still can't wrap my brain around it because it is so complicated, so involved. It really is remarkable. That's who we're with, guys. We're with that crazy professor. He gets it done, and he gets it done the right way. So ONPASSIVE, honest, ethical, clean. It's here for all of us. And believe me, we want all the security we can handle, as these guys have told us. Marty, go ahead.
Well, I should have went before Mike. Yep, I just realized that. Now, it doesn't leave a whole lot for me. I want to try to make it simple, like Mike said, as we can. Everything we do in ONPASSIVE, from the products, your name, your password, everything is data. Yeah, it might be your name and there might be a password, but it's all data. It's all in a system. And data security means the company collects data, they move data, they own data, and they don't want anybody else to have any part of it. That's a big deal because with data, like we've said many, many times, with data is money. If you go to, when Ash always talks about the correction to corruption, the correction to corruption is these big companies know that the average person has no idea about data and they don't care. You should care because when you go to Facebook or you go to Google or you go somewhere and they sell your data, they are saying, Marty's online, Marty looked at this, go get them. And they start throwing a chair in front of you. They start throwing sneakers in front of you. They start, your data is being sold without your permission. Now that goes on all the time. I don't want to scare people, it's just the way it is. When you own the land in the internet, when you have a data center, data centers, you own the property. Nobody's getting in because it's a gated community. And when you move something, you're moving it very securely because when somebody logs in and they said, I just can't log in, I just can't log in. And I look and I'm saying, man, I wonder what they did. And one simple thing is they put their email in and they left a space after the last .com. And that space is data. The computer reads it as martydegarmo.com Z, which is not an email, so it will not work. And people don't realize that one space, no space in data, every bit of space in data means something, whether it's a triangle, an upside down, whatever, it all means something. So when you're moving it or you're touching it, or, I've seen one time a guy sent me an email and he said, don't return to this address, return to this email. And I, okay, I wonder why you said that. I copied the email and I clicked it. And the email that was written to me was not the actual email. It was switched to another email, but the one that you read said an email, but the one that it actually was going to was a totally different email. And that's what happens when you can take any email and make a hyperlink out of it. You can actually change what it says, but not change where, and it still goes where you want. In other words, it can be onpassivenation@gmail.com, says that to you, but when you click on it, it's going to fredsmith.com and you're getting information from you. That's why if anybody sends you an email, don't answer it. But if they send you a mail, you can respond to that email because they can't fake that. I know it sounds like little things like that, but I've seen it where you go back and you go, wait a minute, I don't understand what this email isn't working. I clicked on it and found out that the email they sent is not what they think it is. I said, that's not your email. Yes, it is. I said, no, it says it is, but if you click it, it will show you what the actual email is. I know you guys know what I mean, but stuff like that, little things, and security for the company, especially when data is money and money is money, you got to be very secure. And they told us today how secure the data is. In fact, if you look at the tech people in Hyderabad and you look at it like there's 75 floors, not everybody can go get off on every floor. They get off on the floor they're allowed to get off on. That button doesn't work on level number 5 or number 7 or number 10 for certain people because they're not allowed there. And that's how they keep people in their lane. This is what you do. You don't need to know what they're doing and all that. And Ash made it a web so that it's, once again, protecting our data. So I hope I didn't make the complicated more complicated. But anyway, it was a very good show and fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, we're coming to the end of our webinar. So do you folks have any final comments or words of wisdom for us from any of you?
Yeah, let me just say one more thing, Lynn, just very, very quickly. Don't let any of this scare you, please. This is not scary stuff. It's needed stuff. We have to have it. ONPASSIVE has not changed, okay? We're here to go to work for you. That's what ONPASSIVE is. That's what they do. They're going to drive the traffic. They're going to bring the traffic in. They're going to go to work for you. They're going to bring customers in. But without all the stuff that these gentlemen have talked about, it really makes it impossible for ONPASSIVE to do what they're going to be doing for us. So don't let this stuff scare you. It is not scary stuff. It's really, really cool stuff. I love to listen to these guys because I learn stuff every single time I listen to them. Understand that we are moving forward. We are moving forward very, very quickly. Ash Mufareh, we're right there. And ONPASSIVE hasn't changed. We're going to do everything that we said we were going to do for you, for all the founding members here. This is just a really, really cool aspect. It's one department of ONPASSIVE. There are many, many departments of ONPASSIVE, and they're all critical. So if it scares you a little bit, don't let it. We're in a great place. Go ahead, Lynn.
Anybody else? We're good?
Yeah, so I can
Colin,
go for it.
Go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Colin.
Yeah, so as Mike just said, please, this shouldn't scare you. We are just here to give you information why they are doing what they're supposed to do, because without this process, there will be no product. And if we don't have product, what are we selling? Nothing. So I will borrow this from Marty DeGamo. He said, ONPASSIVE is like a very big plane about to land, but the runway is small. And we have to expand the runway as it gets bigger. So ONPASSIVE is just growing bigger and bigger, and the runway, we need to expand it. So whatever we have said here is just about expansion and secured so that the plane can land safely without any damage. So that's what I just want to add. Please, this shouldn't scare you. It's just educative and informative. So your heart will rest at peace, knowing that ONPASSIVE is doing what it said it will do for you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just agree. I agree with Collins, and Uncle Mike, it's just like they say, it's informational for you to just know where we are and the things that the company is doing for us on our behalf. But from a security perspective, all of us should be mindful, like I said in the opening, when ONPASSIVE launches and the whole world now starts revolving around us, we are going to be targets. So we have to be mindful that we should be looking out for signs and things that don't make sense, especially when you're going into your back office to get access to your account, the kind of information. People will be sending you emails, all kinds of stuff. So you should be able to identify that, but you don't need to know anything, like Mike said, nothing. The system works for you, it's automated. We have the product, we have the market, we have the price, we have our AI, we have Miss O staff working for Miss O chat. Everything is done for you as promised. But we have to be mindful because the world is going to find out about us pretty soon. And you know what comes with that? Everybody now, all the bad actors are going to start looking at us. So we should be careful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle Bob. Thank you, Uncle Mike Collins. Let me say this, like my other colleagues have said, don't be scared. You just have to know where your data is going. I don't think anybody here wants his or her date of birth, social security number should be out there. You know what they can do with it. Likewise, our customers. There's one thing, the customer is always right, and the CEO, he is particular also about serving to make sure that customer satisfaction should be also our number one. And if they want to be our number one, we have to secure their data. Data is what we have to secure. If we have all these good equipment that I've called the good technology, but there's one thing, the data. Where would that data go? That is what we have to secure. And that is what we have to come out with this program for all of us, the founders, to know where we are and what we are securing. That treasure is the data. We can build everything that we build, but if we don't secure that data, our customers will run away from us. And that is why I'm very happy with our CEO that we now have our own data center so that we have everything in-house that is going to be secured. Don't be scared what we are saying. It's just an educative program. Thank you.
Vincent?
I think, okay, thank you, Lynn. So like Brother Oliver said just now, the data center, why we have a data center, having our own data center is also a way to protect our data, because when our data is hosted by different company, we don't know what the company can do with our data center. So having our own data center is bring more security to our side as well. So this is what we're trying to say, but people should not be afraid. We're not trying to bring in too much technology to our head, but we're trying to make people to understand the technology behind ONPASSIVE and why we need to protect our data so that people information, the sensitive information, should not be outside in the hand of the bad guys. So that's why we're trying to do. So every single week, we'll talk about different topics and then to try to let people understand what is going on. But next week, we'll talk about artificial intelligence system, where the system we are using behind ONPASSIVE, most of our products are using artificial intelligence system. So we'll talk about that and try to break it down so that people to understand the use of artificial intelligence system, the technology behind artificial intelligence. So don't be scared, just to allow you to understand the whole system. So thank you, Lynn, and then thank you, Brother Marty. Thank you also, Mike, and thank you, my fellow brothers, Bob, Oliver, and Collins. Thank you for that was great presentation.
Marty,
Hey, Lynn, just a quick word, Lynn. So
Sure.
you picked just a minor topic for next week, huh? Artificial intelligence. You'll cover it, what, 5 minutes?
They're going to talk a mile an hour. They're going to be speaking very rapidly, but it's going to be a very interesting topic. You know, everybody wants to know about AI. AI is our world and will continue to be our world that we live in. So I'm excited about that topic. So that's going to be April 19th, Saturday. We'll post the link in the back office and on social media. So just look out for it. Marty, did you want to say final words today? No?
Nope,
All right.
I'm good.
You're good. All right. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week, Saturday.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, guys.
this is live stream, so you can watch it on YouTube on multiple channels. Catch the replay. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Did
Thank
a
you,
great
everybody.
job. Great
Thank
job.
you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, Mike. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.